Hey everybody, it's Jesse, and today we're going to try to do a masonry layout with this section, sorry, wrong page, with this section, so these are all resources. They're going to have images, and they're already different heights, and I just did this kind of ugly workaround to keep them all the same height. Um, what I was going to do as kind of a band-aid on this until I got the masonry layout set up was just truncate these, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and do the masonry layout now, and what that's going to do is allow me to use different height cards, and I'll have to worry about the different heights, and they'll automatically line up, the right way. I know that you can do this kind of with Flexbox. The problem is the order of the cards is weird when you do it with Flexbox. So the cards will go like, let's say if the list was one, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And where normally you would expect it to go right to left and then down. So any type of sorting will get kind of messed up if I do it like that. So what I need to do is use JavaScript to position all of these. So I found in the past I've used Masonry, so I've used this library, and it works well. But I've had two issues with it that I always have to try to work with. One, if you have images, you have to add another library called images loaded to figure out when the images are actually loaded and then position them, because otherwise if it tries to calculate the size of all those divs, of all those little cards beforehand, before the images are loaded, they're going to like stack on top of each other because the initial size of them is not correct, it's too small. The other issue I've had is when I've done sites with React, and in particular with Next, in the past, when I've tried to do client-side routing, I've had issues with things not working. So it's possible that I was setting it up wrong, but today I think I'm going to go with something else. So instead of me trying to take into account those factors, I'm going to use this library. I think this was the one. Yeah. So this React Masonry component. So this is using, from the documentation, it seems like this is using Masonry anyway, so it's still the same library, so we'll still get the same effect, but it's already taking into account some of those other things, and it's already, built in React. So the thing that's going to be weird, for me at least, is this is different than just like your basic setup to use Masonry, to use that package. So it's kind of a layer on top of that. So I'm not really familiar with some of these options. So it'll kind of take a little messing around with, I think, to get this to work right. But it looks pretty straightforward. We'll see if we can get it to do what we want. And I like that this is, React style. We did some kind of odd stuff for React to get our jQuery things working. So I don't want to have to do those same workarounds to get Masonry working. I'd rather do it like this, in a style that's more in line with what we should be doing in React. Okay. Hey everybody. I could see some people were saying hi in the live chat. Corey asks, would love to be added to Jesse Trello. You mean like the Trello board that I have here? I'm not sure. Can you add people? I mean, I don't have a problem making these Trello boards public. At least most of them that I have, there's nothing like they can't be public. I just want to make sure nobody can just come in and mess with the board. So if there's a way to just make them publicly visible, I don't really have a problem linking to that. Um, uh, Lennon says, please use ES6. Yeah, actually, I am using some things from ES6, so you'll see as we go through. Um, I don't know for sure that I'll be using a lot of ES6 stuff today, but I have before, and I certainly will in the future. So for sure, I often use template literals. Obviously, I use let and const instead of var. I'm using some arrow functions, so some basic stuff. Not really, complex things, but definitely will use some ES6 features. Also, I need to keep this a little bit shorter than normal, so I've actually set an alarm for 3 o'clock. So if you hear an alarm going off at 3, that's because I need to make sure I get to the store, pick up my son, and take him to his karate lesson. So I have to get out of here. I haven't been able to take him for a few weeks because I've been working a lot extra. So today I need to take him. My wife's not feeling well, so I really don't want to have to call her later and say, "Can you take him, please?" And today, this is the first code that I'm actually writing today because the day has been filled so far with so much paperwork that I've put off for the last few weeks. So, so let's get started. I'm going to move this. Let me show you, at least if you're not familiar with the Masonry layout. I'll show you a demo of this. So this demo is linked from this repo. And basically, you can see the effect we're going for is that these cards are all a different height, but everything lines up. And I'm sure you've seen this before. I mean, this is kind of everywhere now. But it's nice. Everything's spaced out, kind of properly as you would expect. Right now, if I put cards of differing height, I would get weird spaces, uneven spaces everywhere, just with the styles that I have applied currently. So this is what it should end up looking like. Everything should, and actually we should be able to see this change. Okay, you see how that kind of just really fluidly resizes and moves. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that we want. This one actually even kind of resorts everything. So we're going to have some of that because we have those tabs already. But that's what we want. And let's get started. I'm going to move this to my other screen, and I'm going to pull in my terminal. And actually, let's move this whole thing to the other screen. I don't need it right now. I'm going to pull in my terminal, and we'll install this package, and we'll test it out. First, what I want to do, so if you'll notice, if you watched yesterday, I forgot to git pull, and then we had to do a merge, and I messed it up, and it was embarrassing. So today, I made sure that I just did a git pull right before we started. So we're up to date. I mean, I knew for sure this time that I hadn't added anything in that I needed to pull, but I just wanted to check it out. Let me check. I'm going to check the live chat just for a second, and then I'm going to ignore it for a little bit while we're setting this up. So Jay says you can make the Trello board public so people can view it, but they can't edit. Okay, awesome. So I'll try to set that up then. Like I said, today I need to get out of here very quickly after the stream ends. So I'm not sure if I'll get it set up today, but I'll make sure I write it down or make a note somewhere to do that. And then I'll link to it in the description. Hamza asks, why use JPEG instead of PNG? Usually JPEGs I can get to a smaller file size. So that's why I use JPEG. If I need transparency, then I usually go with PNG, but otherwise I go with JPEG. They always seem to be smaller. I'm not like really an expert on different file types. I just know kind of basically what you want for performance on a website. Okay, Rakib, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Rakib Hassan says, guys, what about Vue.js? I don't know that much about Vue.js. I'm interested in it, but for now, I mean, this site's built with React, so we're definitely going to work with React for this one, but I'm interested in learning more about Vue. Okay. All right, so I'm going to ignore the live chat for a little bit. If you write in the live chat, I'll take a look at it at the end. And if you can't stick around till the end for me to answer you, then put it in the comments for this video or just direct message me on Twitter and I will get back to you. Oh, awesome. Hamza. Actually, I remember you. I mispronounced your name a few episodes ago. Call me out if I do it again. It's Hamza, right? Yeah, Hector. My code is in GitHub, so there should be a link in the description to the code for this, and a link to the live site. All right. So since this is going to be kind of a big change, and I'm not even sure if I can get it complete today, this might end up being a two-part thing because since I kind of have to cut this. Actually, I mean, originally I was doing half-hour videos, but they've been kind of getting closer to an hour every time. I'm not sure I can finish this, so maybe we'll finish it tomorrow. So I'm going to do a branch. So if you haven't used Git that much or you haven't used branches, you can make a branch in Git, and then it won't affect your master branch. You can do whatever you want and totally mess up your app or your site, and then just switch back to the master branch, and everything will be back to normal again. So branching is, at least for me, since I work by myself primarily, what I use branching for is if I have something that, like, I know it's going to take a while to implement it and I'll need to switch back and make some minor changes on master. That's a good way to keep those separate so I can keep updating the main site and not worry about having this halfway finished code in there. Also, if I always want to mess around with a new idea and I know it's going to be a major change and it's going to be hard to come back from, then I just do another branch. And sometimes I never really finish it, but it's not really a big deal to have as many branches as you want. If you're working with a team, then branches are also good. I've seen people, they have their master branch is stable. Then they have their development branch, which has a newer version of things, and all the work gets done primarily on the development branch, and then it gets merged into master. So there's different ways you can use branches with, but for me, I just they're just kind of for experiments or large changes. All right, so we're just gonna type git branch, and we'll just give it a name. So I'm gonna name this Masonry, because that's what we're gonna do, and that way I'll know what's going on, and then I can do. I think this will actually list them for me. There we go. So if I type git branch with nothing at the end, then it doesn't create a branch, it just lists them. So now I can see I have two branches. I have master and then masonry. So to switch to the masonry branch, I'm going to go git checkout masonry. Okay, and now I'm in the masonry branch. So if you see here, this in the green tells me what branch I'm on. So it was on master, now it's on masonry. So now anything I change in this branch won't mess up master. So if I get a message in the middle of this video from my boss and he says, hey, there's an emergency, there's just something's messed up on the site, you need to change it, I could with one command, switch back to master, make the change real quick, push it, and then switch right back to masonry, and I don't have to worry about that the site is like halfway broken because I'm adding stuff to it. So super useful. I'm sure other systems like version control systems aside Git have similar features. I don't really know. I've only used Git. All right, so now that we're on here, I'm going to install that React Masonry component. So remember, we're using Yarn on our local development environment instead of just plain NPM. I encourage you to check out Yarn. It's it's definitely faster, at least from my experience. It's faster to install things than NPM is, and the commands are a little bit shorter. So we're going to go yarn add, and we're going to React Masonry component. Okay, I'm just double checking, make sure I spelled that right. Here we go. I just had the idea here, not that I would ever do this, but if somebody was really being like a not nice person, they could probably make NPM packages that were terrible, that were just slightly misspelled versions of popular packages. I don't know. Maybe that's a terrible idea, but people may accidentally download them. So I don't know. Has anybody ever seen that happen? Okay, so we've added this, and let's see how to require. So I'm looking now back on the documentation for this, and here's what we want. We want to use the ES6 style modules because that's what we're already using. So we're just going to need to import this, and let's add this in. Let's see where we need to add this. So our cards themselves are a separate component. It's separate from the page that they're on. So let me think for a second where we need to add this. Do we need to add this on? I'm not sure if we need to add this on the component. I think it is. I think it's supposed to be on the component. So I haven't. I feel like I say this all the time, but I haven't thoroughly read through this documentation. So I'm kind of just going through this and learning as I go, which is pretty much what we do, right? I mean, most of the job is learning new things and implementing them. All right, where's my card here? Is it the text card? No, resource card, obviously. Okay, so here's our card that we're working with as it is now. And we're probably going to change this a lot, it seems like, from the documentation. So first thing we're going to do is copy that in. Okay, so we're importing Masonry from React Masonry component. And now we're going to put in some of this markup. So I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to keep it on the other screen just so we have more room to see the code that I'm working on. So if you want to check this out and kind of follow along, check it out on GitHub. If you type in React Masonry component, just on a Google search, this will come up. So you can check that out and follow along if you need to. I just rather not split the screen up. I think it'd be better to just make this code bigger and more readable for you all. And I don't need this side, so I'm going to make it smaller so we can see more. Okay, so some of the stuff we definitely want to keep. So we want to keep, the general look of these cards that we already have, which I think I showed at the beginning, but I'll show again just quickly for everyone that's tuned in a little bit later. So this is what we're working on. These are the cards as they are now. So we definitely want to keep this. And for right now, I'm not going to add in the images. Maybe tomorrow I'll add in the images, but I know I'm not going to have time to mess with them now. But we will need to test it with images, since they will have images sometime in the near future. But we can definitely test it with differing heights, since, if I hadn't have set a max height, these would all be different heights right now. And the link to that, the live version of this site, is in the description. Okay, so let's try to convert this component to this masonry, to use this masonry component. Okay, it looks like alright, so if you're following along with the React Masonry component documentation, I'm checking out the custom prop section just to get an idea of, basic, the basic, kind of how to initialize this. It looks like the component name just needs to be Masonry, and I don't even necessarily have to add any options right now. So here's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try to wrap this entire thing in an element that's just called Masonry, and see what happens. I think I'm going to have to put some stuff in here, some properties there. Let's see. Okay, so we've wrapped that in Masonry. It looks like class name, my gallery class. They've given it a class name, style, an on-click handler, but I don't know that those are required. I think that's just, in there for demonstration. So why not just try it, see what happens. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to go back. Did I move this? Yeah, I moved it to my other screen. We're going to go back to this and see how things look. Did it refresh? I don't know. Let's see. So it didn't break anything, but I'm not sure that it's actually using. No, it doesn't look any different than it did before. So it's possible either that I just set that up completely wrong, or, and maybe both, my styles that I put in there are kind of messing this up. So let me see. I'm not getting any errors specific to that. So let's go in and remove the styles from these that are making them all the same height. And that should give us a better idea of, what's going on max height. So let's take out, actually, let's just take out all of this. We don't need it. And now I'm going to save that, and we'll go back, and you can see. Okay, so here's what's happening. This obviously is not what we want, but at least this shows us that whatever we just did with Masonry is not working. I'm going to check the live chat quickly. I always forget to do this, but when I mess something up, usually you all in the live chat tell me what I did wrong, and I don't look at it, and it takes me forever to figure it out. So I'm going to check it quickly. Okay, so yeah, remove. Uh, in the live chat, someone actually, let me see. By Seba, I know you're always watching the videos, but I'm not sure how to pronounce your YouTube name. It looks like by Seba XX. So is it cool if I say Seba for your name? Let me know. Um, anyway, they said remove max height first, which is what I ended up doing. So thanks for that. All right, so let's look. I'm going to compare quickly the what we have here compared to what's in the example. Okay, Sebastian, awesome. In the live chat, the person I was just talking about that I couldn't pronounce their YouTube name uh, is Sebastian. So I like that name, Sebastian. All right. Okay, so in the chat, let me see. Bromomatic says, wouldn't we want one instance of masonry that has all of the cards as children instead of every card being a masonry element? I'm not sure. That's a good idea. Let me take a look again at this. Actually, you know what might be useful? I wonder if I wonder if that site that had the demo. I wonder if there's a repo for that site. I just checked the site again. It doesn't look like there's a repo, but it's possible that we could inspect it. So here's the inspector for that site. It's possible we can inspect it and go into. No, it's not. It's not bringing up the option to inspect all the components. That's weird. Application security audits. Yeah, usually I have the option to inspect with React, but not now. So, but at least we can check this and see uh, how this ends up coming out. So, okay, they do have. This looks like the. Yeah, this is the overall container that they're using, and they have classes on it, just like we have some. We have some columns. Okay, this looks like it actually is giving some good information. I'll explain what I'm seeing here. Their column classes are actually on the cards themselves, and our cards are within a column. So our columns are separate divs, and theirs aren't. So that might make a difference. So what we could do is maybe try to make the columns the masonry components, or make the masonry component be the wrapper around all the columns and not just the cards themselves. Yeah, so let's try. And you can tell here we have this absolute position. These are definitely the divs that are being positioned absolutely, because these are being generated, and you'll probably be able to see them move. Like if I see how that all flashed, those are definitely being generated from JavaScript. Okay, so let's try that. We're gonna need to go out into, so let's remove, we won't need this in here. Let's remove, shoot, that was more than I wanted to. Just this, masonry. And we'll remove this down here. And we don't need this anymore in our component. And now we want to go to the actual page that these appear on, which is okay. I would have kind of liked it if this could have been all in one component, but the way I have this set up now, it's going to go here. I could probably refactor later on maybe and make it all in one component, but just for testing, it'll be easier to put it in here. So we can see I have, I have these right now going, and each of these rows is actually a tab. So if you'll check, so I have these different tabs. So these all get populated, when the page loads. And then it just switches between which row is visible and which row isn't visible. So that's why we have these loops for each row. So I'm just going to test it on the first one because there really is not a need to do it to everything before we're sure that it works. So here's our div that I think probably should be the Masonry component. Either this div or it should be contained in there. So I'm actually going to try to just make this Masonry at first. I'm a little skeptical as to whether this will work, but this is kind of the easiest thing to try, so let's just try it. And we'll save that and check back here. All right. And obviously that didn't work. I'm sure that some of you caught that I forgot to import this. So let's save it now and see. Let's refresh. Okay, so it looks like nothing new. It's still doing the same stuff. I do want to inspect this and see what it looks like with the React inspector. Okay, so I just want to see kind of what it's doing. So we have this Masonry component. Okay, so it's changed Masonry component here, and then there's a Masonry container inside of that where it's actually applying the same class name. So I'm not sure if that's what we want. And then the card is inside of that. Okay, so next thing I'm going to try is just wrapping this in the component. I do want to check, I want to compare this to how it looks in the other site as well. Let's see. Actually, this looks pretty much like what the demo site looked like in terms of just, the markup. Is that the outer div had the column classes on it. And look, this actually does have this position set up here. So this is doing some of what we want. So at least that's a good sign, right? Is it? Maybe not. I'm just wondering where this height is coming from, because I'm definitely not setting this. Alright, I'm going to check the live chat again to see if anybody has noticed something. Okay. Alright, so let's try. Actually, I want to see if we have any change at all. We do. Okay. Alright, so check this out. Did you see that? That was like we're getting changes. So we're getting position absolute. We're getting changes. So this is definitely doing something. I'm not sure exactly why we're not getting what we want. let's see. Okay, so these are, I just want to make sure that these columns actually do have a height. So they do. So that's good. Maybe there's some styles that I'm applying that I need to stop applying for this to work. I mean, honestly, if things are being applied with JavaScript, in line like that, it should override anything that I'm doing. But just to be sure, I'd like to I'd like to see what's going on. Let's compare. Let me check quickly. All right, yeah, I'm not getting errors related to that, so that's good. This is from that demo site. Oh, shoot. No, it's not. Where'd the one from the demo site go? I'll just inspect it again. I must have closed it out. So here's the demo site, just to give us an idea of what it's supposed to look like. Okay. All right, I see here. All right, so whoever said, sorry, I can't remember right now who said this, but someone in the live chat said a few minutes ago to wrap the entire thing in that masonry component instead of each thing, and I think that's probably the best way to go. From looking at this now, it seems like what's happening here, and this on the demo site, this is the overall container for all of the cards. And it has the same styles being added dynamically as each one of our column classes does, this relative positioning. And then inside that, we have our cards being positioned absolutely. So that's not what we want. So what that means is we need to go up another level so that our main container for those cards is what is the masonry component. And then below that, inside of that, we have our column component. So whoever said that, I'm going to scroll up so that I can give credit where it is due. Let's see. All right, Bromomatic is the one that brought that up like over 10 minutes ago. So good call on that. And let's try this out. So what we want to do, let's go back down to where we added this in. Where was it at? We're down farther? Yeah, so we're down here. So let's change this back to a div. And instead, inside this, I guess inside the row will work. We'll do another element. Masonry. I'm not going to give it any extra configuration at this point, but we probably will once we get it working. We can mess with the configuration. All right, let's save that. Let's see what we have. Oh, that looks like what we want. Let's mess around with it. All right, what do you think? It looks like it happened. It worked. Wow, I did not think that we would get it working that quickly. So what time is it? Oh wow, so under 40 minutes, not bad. Okay, so this is, I mean, it's working right now for what we want it to do, right? We have different size cards. We don't have that scroll bar that, honestly, on a Mac, the scroll bar hides automatically. It's not that big of a deal, but on a PC, it like is this big ugly scroll bar. So that was not a good look. So awesome. So that's working. So here's what still needs to happen though, and we need to test. One thing I need to test is if I click around, will this still work? Because with the client side routing, I'm assuming this will, since this is a React component. There, it's probably assuming that you're going to use client side routing, but we can test that out right now. The other thing we want to test are images and making sure that it takes into account the height of the card from when the image is actually loaded. And for some reason, okay, I thought my computer froze, but I think my my trackpad is just running out of battery. So we'll go back to resources. At least we'll try. Let's no, okay, I'm gonna restart my dev server quickly since it's hanging. Let's make sure it starts. Okay. Okay. That's weird. That was really slow, but hopefully it works now. All right, so now we've navigated away. It looks like it's still working. That was actually weird. Did you see that? We had this indicator here was spanning 2 rows. I'm going to click out and back in just to double check this. Wow. The loading is just taking forever. It doesn't normally take that long. I probably do have, maybe I have the network throttled. I don't know. For testing. Okay, so that works. We didn't get whatever that weird thing was, so I'm not too worried about that. Great. So that's the first thing that I was worried about. The second thing is the images, and I think I'm going to save that either tomorrow or maybe if I have a chance to get it done before tomorrow, I'll move on to something else since, the bulk of this was, we implemented. So we do have, I want to bring this back in quickly before we finish. Where is it? I lost it. I lost my, here it is, my documentation. Anyway, so you can see there's definitely other things that we can do with this. There's different options for transitions. So, I'll probably mess around with this. We even have, so there's a lot of different things that we can do. So maybe I'll mess around with it a little bit and see. But today I don't have a lot of time. So, but that worked. It wasn't too hard. Like I said, really the hardest thing was just figuring out exactly where to put this. These this masonry element there. So. All right, so that gives us plenty of time. It gives me plenty of time to check through the live chat. Okay, I just see one that I'm going to answer right now at the bottom here. So, yes, this does apply. The question was, this is just applied to the Alt tab right now. Yes, and yeah, that is true. We only applied it to the Alt tab. So I am going to have to go in and apply it to the other tabs. Hopefully that doesn't mess anything up. I hadn't thought about that until right now, but I was just assuming that you could have multiple instances of this and it would work. So that's going to be another thing. I hope that does work out. If it doesn't and I have to do something else, I'll make sure that I mention it tomorrow. Whether or not we actually do it live tomorrow, I'll at least mention if I had to do something different, I'll mention what the problem was and how I fixed it. All right, so I'm going to scroll up a bit to where I last looked at the live chat, and I'm going to answer. Actually, should I do? Let me show you show you all this interview first. It's only about 30 seconds. I'll do that first, and then I'll go to live chat. That way, if anybody has any questions they want to get in, you can get it in, and we'll have maybe like 10 minutes to go through, and I can answer some questions. So this video is from Rick Rein, who he works with Operation Code. He actually works at Akamai, the CDN company. So, but he also does this Operation Code, which helps out military veterans get into get into coding. So I have this up. Let me make this full screen for you all. And like I said, short interview, but he's going to go through, just like the previous interviews, if you've seen any of them, just really quickly talk about some new technologies he's interested in, and give some advice to people who are just starting out and learning how to code.
All right. So my name is Rick Rein. I'm a CTO of Operation Code. We're a nonprofit that gets veterans and their families into programming. New technology that I'm excited about is Elixir. I really like functional programming. I like the paradigm. It's fun and it's a little bit challenging. And my advice to new programmers is go out there and build stuff.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, really short, but good advice. Actually, I like that. Everybody, that's my last interview, by the way, from that I did with people from SyntaxCon. But everybody had really great advice, and just to add to this advice in particular, just build stuff. Yeah, definitely build stuff. I've been in the situation before where I've done a lot of like tutorials and didn't get out of tutorial mode or stayed in tutorial mode for too long, I think. Where I've done like the online tutorials and I haven't actually built anything. There's nothing that I could really put in a portfolio. So the tutorials are really good starting out and sometimes even to go back to when you're learning something new. But the sooner you actually build something, you're gonna have something to put on your portfolio. You're gonna feel really accomplished that you built something. And you're going to learn a lot of those skills that aren't exactly covered in this tutorial, but you're going to need, if you're doing this. So, if you're using like the in-browser editor that handles everything for you, and you go onto a real job and you have to set up, your code editor and your terminal and all your build tools. Some places, have DevOps people that can handle a lot of that for you, but if you don't, like I don't have that here, you're going to have to know how to do all that. So at some point, it's good to make the transition and, start building stuff and use that. So, so anyway, thanks to Rick for doing that interview, and thanks to everybody at SyntaxCon who volunteered and to do interviews. I really appreciate it. All right, so now we're going to take at least until, like I said, until about 3 o'clock. Or until I get through these questions, whatever's first. I'm going to go through the live chat questions. So if you were just here for the coding, then you can check out now. I won't be doing any more coding. Let's see, where did I go? I'm trying to figure out where I left off at. Okay, so it looks like I left off right about the point where we were talking about Git branching. So Hector says, in some cases, cherry picking with Git is useful. Okay, Naveen asks how much you charge for this website. So for this website in particular, I did this at the place where I'm employed. So I work at a university, and another department was starting this project and needed a website, and at some point along the road, it fell to me to do the site. So some of the work for the site was done. Basically, there was another site that was built differently. Some of the design elements I was able to repurpose for this site. But so basically, I didn't charge anything. I get paid a salary, and I work on various websites for different departments and different things that this university has going on. I would probably say if I was going to charge for this site, I don't want to like. I'd have to take into account other stuff, but if I have to give an answer on this now, I would say someone in the chats mentioned $5,000. I would say that would probably be the minimum that I would charge, possibly more. Probably more for this site because this site is definitely not finished yet. There's actually a lot more that they wanted to do that we're going to add, and right now either there's not content for or I didn't have time to add it in. So when all is said and done, this is going to be a bigger site and it's going to do more things. So I'd be thinking more in like the $10,000 range. I do some freelance work on the side, and the last site that I did that would have been like comparable technology wise and like scope wise to this project was over 10,000. So it was like almost a $12,000 site. So yeah, so I would say like somewhere in the 10,000 range is probably what I would charge. I am in the United States, so I don't know what that would be, and in different areas of the United States are different as well. So if I was in a bigger city or maybe on the West Coast, I would probably charge more. But I'm not. I'm in a smaller city and not really a wealthy area of the country. So I think that makes a big difference too. If I'm doing local sites for local businesses, there's no way they would pay $10,000 for a site. It just wouldn't. They just wouldn't have the money where I'm at to be able to handle that. So, but when I do sites for clients that are outside my area, I actually got a lot of work from people in New York City. Then they're not shocked by a bigger number like that. They understand that a good website will take it takes time, it takes money. Let's see. Have you worked out? So Nano Aquila, I think I'm saying that right. Asks, have you worked out how to do load balancing so you can have one server running while you update another? I haven't yet. I actually talked to there's another person in my department that does web development stuff as well, Brian, and he just got back from vacation today. So I was talking to him this morning about how we can set that up. So I haven't decided on anything yet, and I'm going to have to try it out. I would like to read up on it a little bit more, but here's what I'm thinking, and I'm going to have to talk faster if I want to get through this. So if I don't fully answer anyone's question, please put it in the comments or direct message me on Twitter because I want to answer your questions, help you out as much as I can. Here's what I'm thinking. That might be the simplest solution. I don't know how I would do this exactly, but I'm thinking maybe I have 2 copies of this particular site running on the same droplet on DigitalOcean, so on the same server. I already have Nginx set up as the reverse proxy. So what I would do is I would have them both running, but they would be running, so like the Express server would be serving them on different ports. Okay, so what Nginx would then do is split it up between the 2 ports. And I think this would be more simple than trying to do it on separate droplets. I don't know, because a separate droplet would potentially have a whole other IP address, and then I wouldn't be dealing with ports, I'd be dealing with IPs. I'm not sure exactly how that would work with the SSL certificate, so I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm sure it's possible. But I think the simplest way, at least to start out with, since my main concern is just avoiding downtime when I'm updating, and I'm not necessarily worried about like, well, what if this droplet crashes? Like, it's not the type of site that like absolutely has to be online all the time. So at first, at least, I think I am going to maybe try to run two instances of this on different ports, and then use Nginx to switch between the two. I don't know whether or not I'll have to have it switch like manually. So maybe I only run one, and then when I'm going to update, I bring the other one up and manually switch it. Or preferably, I would like to have them both running at the same time and just have Nginx like load balance between the two. And so then it would automatically do it, and I wouldn't have to worry about it. I don't know. If anybody has any thoughts on that, if you've done something like that before, or have any articles or videos that might be helpful, then please let me know. All right. So, um, when I mentioned the NPM typo thing earlier, Ahmad says he was thinking about the same thing the other day, and he puts a little devil emoji. So nobody go out and use that idea for evil. um, okay, I have some advice for when we were working that we actually worked through. So I'm going to skip over that. But thank you everybody who gave me advice. Um, Ify, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it looks like Ify, Ifie, says, still learning JavaScript, have no idea what's going on here with sad face emoji. So, yeah, don't worry about it. There are a lot of videos that I watched starting out, and sometimes I still watch them now, where the first time I watch them, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, but I learn a little bit, I try it, and then I go back and watch it a little bit later, and I understand a little more. And then eventually I go back to the video, and I'm like, I got all this stuff. So it'll happen. And ask questions. So I'm happy to explain, what I'm doing if there's anything that's confusing. And it looks like also, got some similar advice from people in live chat. So awesome, everybody. I'm glad to see the positive encouragement, and I think that really helps. I mean, I know it helps me when I get positive encouragement, and it helps people who are new starting out as well. So it's good to throw that around. I mean, nothing wrong with constructive criticism as well, but especially when people are new, I think they need encouragement more than criticism at that point. They'll get better. That'll come. Someone asked, Maher, I guess that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. Sorry. When you will guys complete the courses in your website? I've been waiting for a long time. I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to, but I think, let me know if this is wrong. I think what is being referred to here are the Free Code Camp courses, like the new courses. So there's like a beta version of Free Code Camp that has new courses, and yeah, so I don't know what the timeline is for completion. If you want to try those out, you can. I think there's a GitHub repo for that's up. I don't know the link offhand, but you can check that out and you can work your way through the beta version. So if you want to get in and try them out, they're not like 100% complete, but I can't, like I said, I don't know, so I can't give you a definite answer. I don't want to try to tell you something and it not be correct, but and let me know if that's not what you were talking about. Okay, let's see. Oops. All right, and I have there are some comments here of people explaining to me what I was doing wrong, and I missed them when I was doing it, so sorry about that. Thank you for the advice. Okay, there we go. John Murphy says, I know it's been brought up before, but what IDE is Jesse using? So yeah, I mean, that almost every video someone asks about the IDE, which is totally fine. I don't get annoyed by that at all because I know sometimes people are watching for the first time or they never caught it before, so totally fine if we get the same question. But Patrick handled that in the live chat. It is Adam, So if you're watching later on and you can't see the live chat, then the link is in the description for my editor. It's Adam. It does have some custom styles. Oh, and there's my alarm. So I'm going to go ahead and there's not that many questions left. So I'm going to finish this out really quickly and then I have to go. The package, I'm using the SETI theme. So that's my theme. Sebastian asked what packages you have installed. So the theme, at least, is SETI, S-E-T-I. I do have a bunch of other packages, and I'm going to do a video soon and put it on my YouTube channel about how I set this up, really about all the different tools I use. I'm going to do some short videos on each one. So those should be coming soon. I just need a little bit of time maybe to get in early one day and do a few videos. So that will be coming, and I'll share that. Some Aim High asks, how long have you been a developer? I want to say like 5 years. I've gotten this question before, and I'm gonna have to like go check my calendar and so I can give an accurate answer. But I'm guessing like 5 years. I messed with websites and did like some really basic things, like back when everybody did like tables for layout and things like that. Back in like the early 2000s. And then I didn't do anything with it for a while, but then I got back into it like seriously, professionally, for money, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. So that would be kind of the start. At first, when I got into it, I definitely wouldn't have considered myself a developer. I was doing a lot of different things, and most of my, the closest thing I was doing to development work was like customizing WordPress themes. So for that first like year, I was just learning. I wasn't really doing developer type stuff. But then after that, I got more and more into it. And now at this point, my title is front end developer, and that's what I do full time. Okay, so someone's asking, I think based on what I've seen, you're easy 18 to 20K. All right, thanks. I'm sorry, that wasn't a question. They're stating that. So spinnerbait, actually, I think that name is like a fishing reference, so that's really cool. I like fishing. I don't get to go as often as I would like, but I like that name. All right, awesome, thanks. So I'm glad you think that the site would be worth that much. Bromomatic asks, how did you find the client for the 10K site? I don't want to give away like a ton of information about this because just in case like the client doesn't want everybody knowing how much that they paid for the site. So I'm going to be like generic here. I'm going to be as vague as possible, but still try to answer your question. It was a connection through a family member. So sometimes that happens. You just get a connection. Someone knew one of my family members, and the company they worked for needed a website. So they got in touch through social media, and were directed to me, and then that's how it all happened. So my best clients have always been like that. It's been like personal connections or referrals from previous clients. That's always the best. So I've done advertising in like all the different social media sites, Google ads. I've tried to, get my website ranked higher and things, and I've gotten very, very few clients from that, and usually they're not big clients. So, those kind of things it's good to have a website and have a social media presence because people are going to look at that. But like personal networking is really where I've gotten the best clients from, and people that I know that also have done freelance work before, they've said the same thing. So that's a good way. That's probably my best advice I can give for trying to find clients and trying to find bigger clients is try to get those referrals from maybe smaller clients and try to work on those connections that you have already. And Yeah, and then eventually, it took me a while to get to that. I worked my way up through a bunch of really small sites that didn't pay very much at all before I got to that point. So it's not like I just, started getting, bigger sites like that right off the bat. Okay, so Chad says, sorry if this has already been asked. I just got here, but when you do work remotely, what form do you charge your clients so you don't get scammed? Usually I do something like, so I do have a contract that I give, and in the contract it states up front that either the full amount, like if it was a smaller amount, if the site I was doing wasn't, let's say it's not 10,000, let's say I was doing a site for just a few $1,000s, which at this point I don't know if I would take a site for that much. Maybe I would. I guess it depends on the site, but if I was doing a site for a smaller amount of money that would be more reasonable for a company to be able to pay up front, they would have to pay the full amount up front before I start working. And then that's like, obviously you don't get scammed, right? Because you get the full amount up front, and that would be in the contract. Otherwise, if it's a larger amount of money, then it's usually a percentage. Like, I'd get 50% up front, 20, whatever percentage it would be. It does depend a little bit on the total price and what's reasonable to expect a company to pay, based on the size of the company. So I would get a percentage up front before I started working. And then I would do the work. If it would be a really long project, there might be some like payment, in between. Like, once I get to a certain point in the project, I get another payment. And then finally, I never launch a site without final payment. And that's in the contract. The site does not launch unless I have that money. Once I have the money, then I launch the site. Then I hand over all the passwords and everything. But that's how it has to work. Otherwise, yeah, you could definitely get scammed. So that happens. I've had it happen before where clients. I've never had it happen where a client just flat out never paid. But I have had it happen where a client didn't pay for a really long time after they were supposed to. And I had to like keep after it and keep contacting them like, every week or so for months and months until I finally got paid. And that was just, I didn't like to do that. I didn't like to bug people all the time. It was just a bad feeling to know that, somebody was, was owing all this money. So now I don't do that. I don't do work without being paid up front before the work goes live. So that's what I would. And if you get a client that's not willing to accept that, then just turn them down. Unless you really, really need that money, you got to feed your kids or something like that, then just turn them down. Because if somebody's not comfortable paying that, then it makes me wonder, like, are they thinking that they want to back out of this if they don't like the product? Like, is that, why do they not want to pay? They're coming into this not trusting you. That's not a relationship with a client that you really want to have. So, anyway, so that's my advice. Maybe some of you might have more experience with that kind of thing, and feel free to add your advice as well. Okay, Spinnerbait says use non-standard port for dev. Okay, cool. That's good advice. Patrick's been looking into load balancing lately. He thinks that we need Nginx health checks, which is not available in the free version, and the paid version is expensive. Okay, that's good to know. I'll look into that. I'm glad you brought that up because that gives me some place to start looking at least. Let me check the time. So, okay, I can finish this out. There's only like 4 more comments here. Zach asks, how or where do I learn the visual design portion of making websites? Do you hire someone for that part, or do you just do it for yourself? Yeah, so it depends on what you're into and what you want to do. For me, I don't mind doing the design stuff. I do it myself. And some people do work like that, and other people, they don't want anything to do with the design, and they have somebody else handle the design. They get the design basically handed to them, finished, and then all they do is make that design into a real website. Okay, so I don't have a person like that working with me right now, so I have to do the design as well. I use Google's material design standards, so that takes a lot of the work out of it for me. It keeps a continuity, so that I don't really have to totally think up the design on my own. There are customizations that are made, but I don't mind doing that. I definitely I don't consider myself a designer, but I do things that are it's design work. It falls under that category. So if you're into that and you want to do that, then I would go for it and learn a little bit about design as well. Otherwise, if you're freelancing, maybe like find somebody that you can partner with that you can recommend to do designs when you try to get with clients if you don't want to do the designs yourself. And then that could be a nice partnership for you. Or if you work in a bigger organization, they'll probably have people doing the designs if you want to just focus on developing the site. So, but that's how I do the. I would say I do actually do the design and development together, just myself. Okay. Umberto says oftentimes it happens. My sister-in-law's uncle is Larry Heck. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not sure what Umberto was responding to. Oh, okay. The question before about payment and not getting scammed by a client. Chad asked that. I misunderstood the question a bit. Chad wanted to know, like, specifically, do I use PayPal or do I use something else? So I give clients the option. I actually, assuming the client's in the United States and it's not a big deal to mail something, I prefer just mailing a check because you mail a check, then there's no fee for that, right? At least for me. If I accept a payment on PayPal, then they take fees out. So the check is easier for me. It's just as easy as PayPal for me without the fee. But sometimes clients prefer PayPal, so I do allow PayPal too. So either way, I don't think it really matters what payment method you're using as long as you make sure that you get the payment before you launch anything. And then you'll be fine because then, it's at least get part of the payment, if not all the payment before you start work. And then for sure, make sure you get everything before you launch a site. And then no matter what you use to receive the payment, if it's PayPal, of course, you get that money instantly, and you can see if it's a check, get the check and cash the check to make sure that they actually have the money in their account first before you launch the site. So that's a good point. Like don't just look at the check and say, hey, I'm going to launch this. Make sure you cash it because if they don't have the money in their account, then you're not going to get paid, even if they wrote the check. Marvin asked, do you use Materialize CSS framework? Yes, I do. I do use Materialize. And Aim High asked, this is the last question. Have you got a personal website? I do have a personal well, I guess it's kind of a personal site. So it's just jesseweigel.com. That's JESSEWEIGEL.com. If you go to that site, keep in mind I have not actually worked on that site for years, so be kind and don't think too poorly of me when you see it. It's just a basic WordPress site that's using like a pre-made theme. There's not a whole lot of customization going on, so just keep that in mind. I really would like to redo that site one day and make it like really cool since I'm not really actively trying to get clients anymore anyway. So that site currently is kind of like a marketing site to get clients. I just never changed it, since I started, working like salaried full time. So one day maybe I'll change it and just have, cool stuff on there that I like to do, maybe just side projects and things. But for now, it is what it is. So don't go there looking for inspiration. You won't find it yet. But maybe one day. Chad, you're welcome. Chad said, thanks for answering questions. You're welcome. No problem. I'm happy to do it. Oh man, you all snuck in some extra questions here. All right, let me see what time it is. All right, maybe I can finish these last questions, and then for real, I gotta leave. I gotta pick up my son. And okay, so what are your top? Jeremy COS. What are your top three code editors? I use Atom. I like Atom. I also have used Visual Studio Code, and I like that as well. I'm kind of using the two of them right now for two different projects that I'm working on and comparing. So at some point, maybe I'll switch. I don't know. I'm not sold on. Atom's been my go-to for years. So I'm gonna have to really be sold on something else to switch, just because I'm so comfortable with Atom and I have all my packages set up how I like. So I haven't really used another editor enough to have a third one. Before I used Atom, I used Notepad++ for Windows. So I don't really recommend that. It wasn't compared to like the newer editors like Sublime and Atom and Visual Studio Code and what else? I think there's like brackets. Like Notepad++ just didn't seem as good as the other ones. Oh, okay. Umberto made a comment earlier, and I wasn't sure what it was, but it was in response to networking. Okay, I kind of thought it was. So, yeah, sorry I didn't understand that at first. Okay. Um, Spinnerbait says, have a great day later. All right, you too. Thanks for watching. Sublime Chess is Sublime, man. Sublime. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that really like Sublime. I've never tried Sublime, so maybe one day I'll try it. But you all know how it is. If you've used an editor for a while, it's just like it's easier to just keep using that than to learn a new one. So it takes a lot to switch. So maybe one day I'll try it out. But all right, so I really have to go now. If you have a question, you didn't get to ask it, or you're watching this later, just put it in the comments or direct message me on Twitter or any of my social media stuff. And I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I'm not exactly sure what we'll be working on. It just depends on how much I get done between now and then. But I'll put it on Twitter whenever, just a reminder, whenever I'm going to be live. And there'll probably be like an update if you're subscribed to the channel that'll remind you all if you want to watch. So thanks so much for watching, and thanks for all the help that you gave me in the live chat. That definitely helped me to get this running faster. So I really appreciate that. And have a great day. I'll see y'all tomorrow.